Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss the latest sovereignty in it news, as the headlines regarding the UK's accession to the CPTPP, amongst other members, where it's mentioned at all, is talking about the laws which the UK Parliament is going to be forced to adopt without having any say whatsoever. Sovereignty! But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So let's review Brexit again, shall we? The clear majority of people think it was a mistake. Even the minority who still think it wasn't a mistake mostly think it's going badly. There are still a few Brexiteers trying to con people that trade is actually doing well since we left, but it's not really washing. They are deliberately failing to look at volumes of trade and are instead plugging monetary values without taking inflation into account. But it's not working because people know trade isn't booming. How do they know? Because they're getting poorer by the month. Most Brexiteers accept that people aren't conned by talk of trade boosts and have retreated to their sovereignty safe place. We never said you wouldn't be poorer, you see, they insist. But it's worth it for our rights to decide our own laws. Easy for them to say when the hardest budgeting decision they have to make is whether to get their shopping from Fortnum and Mason or Harrods. But even the sovereignty argument has been blown out of the water. I have argued that it's a nonsense anyway, because our businesses have to follow EU rules, whether our government tells them to or not. Production rules are decided by the market you wish to sell to, not the presiding government. And the market we mostly wish to sell to is the EU. It's not only right next door, but full of some of the richest consumer markets in the world. But our CPTPP membership means we don't need such subtle arguments anymore. Saw this flashed on Twitter. It's the New Straits Times in Malaysia. It talks about the fact that the UK Parliament is going to have to pass new laws in order to meet our obligations of CPTPP membership. What's this? There are obligations? Of course there are obligations. All trading blocs have rules and all members have to follow those rules. But this is fine, according to the Brexiteers anyway. After all, we used to get a say in EU laws, which is why 98% of them were supported by the UK government of the day. We got no say in CPTPP rules because they were decided before we were members. And it's not like there's a parliament or anything to try to lobby for changes, so we're stuck with them. But apparently it's fine for our parliament to be forced to adopt laws that we don't agree with, like over-harvesting of palm trees. But apparently it was undemocratic, an undemocratic outrage to adopt laws from the EU Parliament where we had a sizable representation and agreed with the measures 98% of the time. I mean, let's be honest, it's an indefensible nonsense, isn't it? The only reason Brexiteers are still getting away with it is because the media are not challenging their narrative. If they were to be pressed on a regular basis, there is surely nothing left of Brexit. Our trade has suffered. It's not been boosted. It could be no other way when you raise trade barriers. Our sovereignty has been lessened. Instead of being one of the major driving forces behind the gold standard around the world, we are now adopting rules that were decided anywhere. Other side of the world, right next door, decided anywhere apart from the UK Parliament, without any input from us at all. Not one single person in this country voted for anyone that decided the laws which we are now going to adopt in order to meet our CPTPP obligations. We understand that this country adopts laws, of course, that not everyone voted for. In fact, it might not even be a majority voted for. In fact, that's actually quite normal. But this is one that nobody voted for. There was no British democratic representation when the rules were adopted. There was no public mandate for even joining the CPTPP. Sovereignty was the last refuge of the Brexiteer, really. It was the platform they could retreat to because it was so insubstantial, so subjective. But that cannot now be the case. Ask them to make their sovereignty arguments again, and CPTPP membership destroys them. We should decide our own laws. Malaysia is now deciding some of them. Does anyone in the UK vote for Malaysian politicians? No. Trade is down, production's down. We're now more reliant on imports because of that, downturn in production. But the pound is lower. So imports are now more expensive than would otherwise be the case. Because trade is down, we're not making as much. So we're squeezed at both ends, making less money, paying out more money. Sovereignty is a joke. we've joined a trading bloc on the other side of the world just to make it harder for Labour to join a customs union with the EU. That's the stated purpose for some Tory MPs, senior Tory MPs. That's why they said they did it. The price Brexiteers paid was having an easy way to shoot down their sovereignty arguments. We're now going to adopt laws which result from joining a trading bloc that nobody in this country voted for. You know, when we joined the EEC, there was a mandate in the form of a manifesto promise. A few years later, there was then a confirmatory referendum, which won. Then, later on, more recently, there was another referendum to leave the EU, and then a manifesto commitment to leave the single market and customs union. But there was nothing for joining the CPTPP. Also, it doesn't make it harder to join the customs union at all. All we have to do is cancel our membership 6 months before we want the customs union to come into effect. Job done. It's easy. It's not even messy. No arguments about a public mandate to leave because we never had one to join. All joining the CPTPP has allowed Brexiteers to do is attempt to defer the Brexit arguments. You point out how trade has suffered. They say, yeah, but we're now tapping into this £12 trillion worth of, is it pounds or dollars? I can't tell. Worth of trade with the CPTPP. It doesn't matter because it's nonsense anyway. But it's also futile because in a couple of years we'll have trade data on the impact of it. We might even have a government which publishes economic impact assessments. That'll be interesting. What are they going to do then? Where will they hide? The CPTPP is a white elephant for trade and a complete mess for sovereignty arguments. I'm not really sure I see where they're going to retreat to after this. The only reason they're still going is, as I say, because the mainstream media are not pointing out these facts clearly or regularly enough. But media support hasn't helped Brexit's public image so far, and it's hard to see how it's going to rescue it now. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.